David Paulides, a former police officer turned investigator, believes something strange is happening in North America's national parks. After cataloging hundreds of unexplained disappearances, he poses a haunting question. Is there something in the woods? Something watching, stalking, waiting? These are not fairy tales. These are real cases, real people. And some were never found. North America's national parks are among the most breathtaking places on Earth. Towering mountains, crystal clear lakes, endless forests that stretch far beyond the eye can see. They promise peace, beauty, and the raw power of nature, unfiltered and untouched. Every year, millions visit these parks to hike, camp, and reconnect with the wild. But behind the postcard-perfect views lies something far more unsettling. In these very forests and along these winding trails, people vanish. Most are found within hours, cold, tired, but alive. But others seem to disappear into thin air. No tracks, no struggle, no final cry for help. It's as if they were never there to begin with. Some disappear while walking just ahead of a friend. Others are last seen near water or after sudden changes in the weather. And in many cases, the victims were experienced outdoorsmen who knew the land well. These aren't just accidents. There's a darkness hidden beneath the beauty, something that doesn't want to be found, and whatever it is, it's still out there. When David Paulides first began looking into these disappearances, he expected chaos, random cases, scattered locations, no real thread connecting them. But what he found was a pattern. After filtering out the obvious, suicides, mental illness, animal attacks, drownings, he focused only on the unexplained. Cases where logic broke down, cases where experienced hikers vanished in familiar territory, cases with no footprints, no evidence, no resolution. Slowly, a map began to form, and with it, clusters, groups of disappearances occurring in concentrated zones. Places like Yosemite, Crater Lake, the Smoky Mountains, the Great Lakes region, the Pacific Northwest, always remote, always wild, and often near granite, near water, and with sudden changes in weather. In many of these incidents, search dogs refused to track, not lost, refused, as if something frightened them or confused them. In other cases, rescuers followed GPS pings, only to find no one. Some victims were seen just minutes before they vanished. Others were found in places already searched. And most disturbing of all, the missing were often found without their shoes or strangely undressed, as if something or someone wanted them vulnerable. It was no longer random. Something was happening. And it was happening over and over again. What you're about to hear are not ghost stories. These are real cases, documented, witnessed, investigated, and to this day, not a single one has a clear explanation. They are strange, they are disturbing, and they defy all logic. Dennis Martin, the boy who vanished mid-game. June 14, 1969, Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Dennis Martin, a 6-year-old boy, was playing hide and seek with his brother and a few other children. As the game ended, all the boys came out from their hiding spots, except Dennis. He had disappeared. Completely. His father sprinted miles down the Appalachian Trail in sheer panic. Over 1,500 searchers scoured 56 square miles for weeks. Dogs, helicopters, even special forces. Nothing. Not a single piece of clothing. Not a sound. Not a trace. A nearby family hiking at the same time later reported seeing what they described as a bear-like man running upright through the trees, carrying what looked like a small boy. They were ignored. Dennis Martin was never seen again. Trenny Gibson, one step off the path, October 1976, Great Smoky Mountains again. Trenny Gibson, 16 years old, was on a school field trip with 40 classmates. They were hiking toward Andrews Bald when she was seen pausing on the trail and looking off into the trees. Then, silently, she stepped off the path. That was the last time anyone ever saw her. No scream. No disturbance. No one nearby heard anything at all. Police originally didn't believe it was possible because where she stepped was a steep drop covered in dense forest. But despite massive searches, not even a shoe was ever recovered. Eric Lewis, the missing climber, July 2010, Mount Rainier. Eric Lewis was part of a 3-man climbing team, all tethered together with rope. At 14,000 feet, the lead climbers stopped to wait. But when they turned to check on Eric, the rope behind them was untied. He had vanished. Not fallen, no tracks, no gear, no cry for help. Later, his backpack and harness were found nearly 500 feet below, but not Eric. Stephanie Stewart, The Watcher disappears, August 2006, Alberta, Canada. Stephanie Stewart, 70 years old, worked as a fire spotter at the Athabasca Lookout Tower, deep in the wilderness. On the morning of August 27th, she failed to check in. Another ranger arrived to check on her. She was gone. Her stove was still warm. A pot had boiled dry. Her truck was outside. No sign of forced entry. No disturbance. No tracks leading in or out of the area. Just gone. Authorities never found her. And soon after, Canada changed how fire towers were staffed. Forever. Charles McCulloch, The Empty Pants, December 1974. Crater Lake. Charles was a 19-year-old photographer hiking solo in winter. A year after his disappearance, hikers found his backpack and a strange sight. A pair of jeans, sitting upright on a log. Inside, his socks were still in place, along with small bones from his feet. His skull was found 12 feet away. His coat, shirt, boots, never recovered. There were over 7 feet of fresh snow on the day he vanished. No one could explain how he got there or what happened to him. Christopher Tompkins, The Vanishing Line. Walker, Georgia. Christopher, 20, was walking with 3 coworkers along a straight stretch of road, each spaced about 50 feet apart. He was at the rear. 1 second he was there. The next, he was gone. The others turned around to find coins on the ground, a sock caught on a barbed wire fence, and pieces of torn fabric. No struggle, no screams. Months later, his other boot was found nearly a kilometer away, near a swamp. Todd Gieb, found standing in water, June 2005, Michigan. After leaving a party around midnight, Todd called a friend. "I'm in a field," he said. Then silence. 3 weeks later, his body was found standing upright in a lake. Not floating, not submerged, upright. That lake had already been searched multiple times. Cause of death? Drowning. But no water was found in his lungs. These are not ghost stories. These are not fiction. These are people, and they are gone. For every strange disappearance, there's always someone with a logical explanation. They say it was an animal attack, or someone got lost, or maybe they just didn't want to be found. But none of these answers explain what's really happening. Wild animals leave signs: broken branches, blood, clothing torn apart. In nearly all of these cases, there's nothing. No struggle, no scent, no sign a predator was even there. Could it be serial killers? Unlikely. These disappearances span decades, thousands of miles, and include men, women, children, even groups. What about people getting disoriented? Sure, it happens, but many of the missing were experienced hikers, hunters, rangers, people who knew the terrain, who had survival gear, and should have been found. And yet, even with helicopters, heat-sensing cameras, and search dogs, nothing. In fact, some dogs refused to track. They stopped and sat down, as if afraid. Others followed GPS signals, only to find empty spaces. So, if it's not animals, not killers, not simple accidents, what else could it be? What's powerful enough to take someone without a sound and without a trace? Whatever it is, it doesn't want to be found. David Paulides never claims to know what's responsible, but the patterns he's uncovered suggest something unnatural. Theories range from interdimensional portals to invisible predators to ancient entities that dwell in the deepest parts of the forest. In some reports, time seems to warp. In others, the missing reappear days later with no memory or found in places already searched dozens of times. Many vanish near boulder fields, bodies of water met, or after strange weather shifts. And then there's the silence, when the forest just stops. No birds, no wind, only the overwhelming feeling that something is watching. Whatever it is, it doesn't want to be seen, but it's there, waiting. These parks are beautiful, but beauty can be deceiving. If you go, be prepared. Never go alone. Tell someone where you're going, and above all, stay on the path, because sometimes something is watching.